You see, I've just put it rightly. COVID came with something that was a statement we learned from the medical practitioners.
Yes, sir.
That COVID is much more hostile and destructive to those with underlying conditions.
Yes, sir.
That's why the youth, even up to today, have not been vaccinated, because majority of them have no underlying conditions. So much as inflation is imported in Uganda, we should not ignore the fact that it found us with our own underlying conditions.
Basically, yes.
It found us fragile.
Yes.
It found us weak. Just like COVID was imported, we defeated it. We lost less than 4,000 people. This is what people are losing per day. This is what we lost through the entire. Why? Because we had some resilience of food, social distancing, naturally, because we live wherever we live. So what is it that, even as inflation is imported,
the responsibility of different people.
Yes, what has exposed us?
Yes, sir.
How come homes can still drive at these prices? It's because maybe I had greater resilience. No. How do you build resilience of everybody? That even when prices go up, people can still take their child to school and they can still either walk to work but eat. How do you live off the margin?
Take us through that. You're online. I can't use that discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
So what should we do?
It's a question of, in economics we usually say, plan for the worst. Look at eventualities. That's why every car at least is expected to have a spare tire. Even when you have very new tires, you don't throw away that spare tire. Something might happen. Even you have cars with spare tanks for fuel. But even those with one tank, there will be a car light which will warn you and say, man, now this is reserve. Now you don't see a reserve and continue driving. At the next place you should refill. But I see people who ignore it and continue. It's
so is agriculture the solution in that kind of trend?
Agriculture, we need to be looking at it to say, how far shouldn't we be pushed? So even if drought comes, even if no rain comes, even if whatever, we are not going to go below this level. Never again should we lose people to die in Karamoja. Never again. Never again should our people go to 1 meal a day.
What could be advised to the situation of Karamoja? Having you here is a serious, it's an opportunity. Like the situation of Karamoja and the underlying factors that led to that scenario. What should be done? What should have been done so that it doesn't happen?
And by the way, thank you very much that we are here in the media. I must flag the role of the media. Because many people, Karamoja is because the media took it up, because civil society picked it up. The fourth estate, really. Not the first estate or second and third.
Yes.
Don't know why they call it the fourth, where the other two in between the second and the third, because the first is supposed to be government. Where did we lose it? But also sometimes the media doesn't make a story, because I want to believe by the time people begin to die, that situation has been there. People began to have 1 meal a day.
Yes.
People began to eat mangoes, and somebody was watching. Now, many other Ugandan regions may not have reached Karamoja where people are dying, but they are possibly where Karamoja was last year. Who is watching the food supply and sufficiency and security in all the different parts of the country? Look at Mbale. There was a flood the other day. And what is everybody reporting? The cars that were washed to rivers and the people who died there. No one is reporting about this water literally flooding people's gardens. And it's still there. But now because it left the road, it seems the problem of Mbale floods went away. There is a household whose entire garden is still flooded. Who is planning for that household?
Yes,
there is a household whose entire banana was wiped away. But the story went on, people died in the car. Now, next month, there will be people dying because their banana died along with the water.
So, Doctor, we are looking at the micro and macro economic approaches.
And contingent planning.
That can be able to manage that situation.
Yes.
And there's something you've talked about, that no one has reported all this to have happened before until maybe at its climax.
Yes.
And what's happening now, much as you've not had everybody crying to the street that I'm not eating.
Yes.
But by the way,
we are waiting for them to die.
The situation is not all that the best.
It is not the best.
So you elaborated why I got interested in that direction of discussion.
Yes, true.
That we need to also ensure that we vaccinate ourselves economically.
Yes.
To tame this situation, to mitigate this situation not to occur. And I just categorically say it's not the role of the government. There's the need of awareness. And that's why as times through these programs we call upon whether civil society or the government partner with us. We continue, so that what is happening, we don't know how long the war will take. We don't know, the environment of business here is not all that certain. Doing business in terms of the transportation of our goods rise on road transport, not on railway. So which will mean that the utilization of fuel for transport will remain high. What should be done now? We go for both the micro and macro, the micro approaches and the macro approaches, and the role of each stakeholder. Yes. As it was done during the days of COVID, we could know a person will have this responsibility, government will have this responsibility, and maybe also the environment, then finally it was put under control.
Yes, exactly.
So let's go through that kind of conceptualization of the matter.
And that's why we said the technical blending with the practitioners. The people who helped us most out of COVID, it's not just the president. The president played his role, but he was given advice by the scientists. This is how COVID moves. This is how it should be prevented. So Mr. President, can you implement the prevention measures? Help us to implement the prevention measures. Now we are coming back. If you want to modernize agriculture, who is speaking to the solutions? Quite often it is everybody thinks I know what to do. I see many people who are saying COVID was a hoax. COVID vaccine is a hoax. I'm like, if it's a hoax, then it's a very good one. Because for the last 2 years, we have been opened up the whole world and we are not hearing what we used to hear. Yeah, but people are still falling sick. I'm like, but they are not dying. I am not hearing the admissions and deaths I used to hear in Europe. And I'm seeing people back in their football stadiums, people are back in the planes. So if that vaccine is a hoax, it's a very good one. But those people are there. Now, who is going to guide agriculture to that level to say, here is the science? Politicians, ours is to encourage the people.
So that we can have much more food and even we can export, because market is there.
Market is there. But now you find more of the talk on agriculture is among the non-technical people. Fine, they have their role to play. But as we said, they still had a role to play in COVID. But the message of a mask, hand washing, social distance, all those kinds came from the science.
Okay, transfer that knowledge now to agriculture.
So you want to come to agriculture to say, yes, who are you, Mr. Government, to come and say enterprise selection? And you are a government official. Whether you have a farm or not, that is not your space. Enterprise selection, we zoned this country under NADS.
Yes.
And PMA.
Yes.
10 agroecological zones.
Yes.
Who has the right to grow sorghum and coffee and tea and onions, plus any other thing that you can add. That is scientific knowledge going by the rain patterns and the soils.
Yes.
Now, we deviated from that. Now, I'm not surprised that we are where we are. That food shortage has
We deviated from that.
The science.
The science.
So you begin to see people saying, let me also grow rice. But your area is not for rice growing. You are going to end up with less compared to if you are done cassava and then you exchange with those who do rice. So the first of all, for us to have this food shortage is because we have not adhered to scientific guidelines and rules. We deviated from that. Politicians began to pick what enterprise people should grow. Politicians, but also business community people took us for a ride for their business case.
Let me come to that critical point of view, and it might have happened elsewhere. And for politicians, kindly, with this information, get informed and stop it if possible. I don't command you, but I do advise.
It's a
in
play.
Ikigezi, there was a theory, and because it was not practically tested, it didn't rely on the culture and on the land tenure policy of Kigezi.
Kigezi,
yes, Kigezi. So they just said, everybody now undertake tea growing. And now, the Bachiga, especially from Kaba and Rwanda, began to say, we don't have enough land. How will I now begin to plant this tea? And yet, it is where I'm planting my Irish potato, my sorghum, and my beans.
Yes.
And above all, on a small land
piece of land.
Yes. Piece of land. So I really realized, and unfortunately, whether I say, howsoever, by then time, misinformed even the president, they dished out of money. I remember 2007, around 2 billion, 3 billion shillings.
For tea.
Which was for tea, and part of the tea, seedlings ended up drying in those hills of Kerere. I'm even specifying.
You should specify that.
Yes, they just brought the seeds and none picked them. So I think there is a mismatch, and
the moment you deviate from the science, because the science, these are agriculturalists, they have spent their time learning their trade. Can we respect their positions? Because at the end of the day, I was chatting with a friend the other day, said, we went there, advise people, they grew macadamia and nobody bought it. I'm like, you advise them as who? You are neither a business person who was going to buy it, nor an agriculturalist who found it suitable. You being a politician or an influential person does not make you an expert in that space. I can understand if a business person is encouraging people to grow because he's going to take it. But even this business person needs to first listen to what is agriculture recommending. The agriculturalists, the veterinary experts. Now, we have not deployed these people in the communities. Extension service providers, as we're talking about, they are not there.
They are no longer there.
Instead, we have put commercial officers. Now, what are you going to commercialize?
Commercial officers and government workers, and at the same time, parish chiefs. You are a chief of who?
I can
understand. You need to be a chief. You want to be
a chief and be a chief of something. You can't be a chief of nothing. Then your title is useless.
Because if it was to be a chief of maybe advancing development and maybe community development.
So in the government realm of planning, we need to go back and say who is fundamental in the community.
Yes, sir.
An agriculture extension staff, crop and vet are critical. 2, teachers are critical because the children need to learn from that community. Health workers, critical. Now the rest of the people, can we debate? Okay, parish chief is like the headmaster in a school. This is the chief administrative person. He would handle all the administration.
Yes.
Security, do we need the police officers? Yes. To what levels? To what degree? So follow those fundamentals. We are here talking about fundamentals of food security.
Yes,
as we speak, food security is endangered by thieves. You wake up in the morning, your entire melon garden has been harvested. You wake up in the morning, your goats and cows have been taken away. It's a security issue, but it is threatening.
What should be done? I went for a burial. I was joining my country down there in the up country, man, and they were very tired. And you better tell us about that, because we are dealing with fundamental socio-economic transformation.
Yes,
and because they were disgusted in an area called Amugwa Town Council with the thieves, you brought the issue of security. And I pray that maybe if it's not happening in my area, I don't know, but it's a serious matter.
It's across the country.
And they are saying they want to meet, and I diverted from them, from their thought, that if they catch up with you, either a serious suspect, no more negotiation.
They will kill you.
They kill you. and it was echoed by a catechist in the church.
Yes.
It was echoed by Giso. I said, you people, you are going beyond. Let there be a method that can be able to contain it in a form of security. What do you think with those dynamics, especially as a threat to economic activities that could drive us to food security?
Because here we are going to give people money. The poorest of the poor. Government money is here. Go and plant what you want to do. This is PDM. Now, the young man who has no land possibly has not received that money, or whoever the other person is, they are waiting to steal. So at the end of the day, you'll find that the wealth created has not benefited the person you targeted, but the other one you ignored, who was also in the same vicinity, the thief. Because these young people come outside old people's homes and other people's homes and say, you dare come out, we are out here, and they're harvesting your crop. One of my aunties first abandoned looking after cows, because her cows would be out and they would sleep.
So these days it is a national issue.
She went into goats, she also abandoned the goats, because those she would sleep with in the house.
In the house.
But then when you leave them in the bush and you go to the well, they take them. Then she said, okay, chicken. She has even abandoned chicken. So what wealth creation can such a person do? She's now subsisting on her children. Not that because she doesn't want to be independent and produce, but there is that problem of security. So how will we address security? As somebody put it, Kifesi, the day we chased them out of Kampala, we think the problem was solved. They have relocated.
They relocated back.
They are the ones in the villages.
The villages.
Because they have, so was it just move out of Kampala, or are we supposed to find a solution of engaging them? So I think these are multidimensional things, as we've said. all the quadrants need to be covered. Now the heavy problem of security is in the countryside. It's not national security that can change government or disrupt a lot of business, but it is undermining the fundamentals of a household survival, food security and income security. Because if you wake up and all your maize is harvested, you have to wait for another season. 6 months away, and for some places in Uganda, that's another
and you
year.
cannot have the greenery which you are talking about.
You have no, even the greenery they can harvest from it. So how do you secure this household? I mean, this is another emerging problem because of lack of socio-economic transformation. So we really need to think back, as they say, thinking outside the box. Let's go back and say, as government, PDM is there. What else do we need to do? And I'm not happy with the number of people who have downgraded the PDM to one pillar, financial inclusion, the 1 trillion. PDM also talks about schools and health. And there is money for that already out there. Because I hear people saying, oh, PDM hasn't started. No, PDM has been running, but because people don't want to attach what was the tagline on PDM, deepening decentralization. They want to undermine the decentralization aspect.
It's undermined.
Because we said the PDM is about decentralization. The parish chief is not new.
Yeah,
he's a district official, but he has never been recruited. The town clerk is a district official, but he has never been recruited. But these township, town councils were created for politics. Because remember, they come with a mayor and some councillors. There they created, they voted. But they forgot the technical officer is a town clerk. Now, development is not happening, but the political box was ticked. That won't change people for food security and income security. So how do we go back to rationalize government institutions, keeping in mind what is the objective? Because I think the moment we lose the objective, then anything can take you anywhere. They say if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. No, this is what we need to first go back and rethink. Doesn't require amendments of laws. If it does, we can always do that. But can we first get the true north? What will it take us to secure these households, to secure ourselves in terms of food? And as I've said, it's not just the 8 to 9 million Ugandan households. Sudan, DRC, Rwanda, Kenya also feed here.
Thank you, Doctor. We continue to make critical analysis in regard to how best we can improve on food security and also looking at the fundamentals of socio-economic transformation. We're able to realize a number of key concerns that have been identified to be of a challenge and an impediment to what we are intending to agitate for, including this rural security, which is a big challenge, and the undermining of decentralization, of which that's a part of the policy making and evaluation aspect, to look at how we can strengthen decentralization. Now, we're not supposed to be talking about strengthening decentralization after over 25 years, yet it is still an ideal policy all over the world for developing countries in strengthening decentralization, ensuring either maybe that the 50%, there are some of the proponents of decentralization and policy reforms who propose that 50% of the financing, according to our revenue, should be going to the districts.
Yes.
And then the 50% managed at the center. So that the area of transforming such social service delivery of social services in the aspect of education, in the aspect of health, in the aspect of water, because that water finally will be much more relevant in this discourse.
Certainly.
And then it is being emphasized. So to the policymakers outside there, I think there is a need, Doctor, as you deliberate on that, to make some reforms, fundamental reforms, and a review of where we have gone wrong in this aspect. There are some unresolved questions that I would like still to bring before you. We would have agitated for silos to be one of the solutions for food security, to bridge the gap, but of which now we don't have national food reserves. At any point, like if two borders crossed, and maybe we are only depending on this, we find